Welcome everyone, this is your host Abraham L. Jaguar, a professional game master. First of all, this channel is proudly sponsored by Durandal. Durandal is a tabletop role-playing game set in the times of Charlemagne's court, with mythic chivalry and legendary warriors. You will find it in the description and in the pinned comment. This channel is also proudly sponsored by the Red Room Publishing. Please check out their store for exclusive tabletop RPG products. They have recently released Savage Swords. This is a Conan-inspired tabletop RPG where you get to explore ancient civilizations and confront forgotten nightmares. You will find it in their website. The link will be in the description and in the pinned comment. This channel is also proudly sponsored by pt3 Studios, the publishers and developers of Dames of Asstoria, a tabletop role-playing game where you play as monster girls, experiencing high adventure in a world that doesn't fully accept them. They have recently released Daughters of Lamb. This is a pay-what-you-want tabletop RPG, where you play as cybernetic nuns with guns, looking for the missing pieces of their AI god. You will find it in their website. The link will be in the description and in the pinned comment. Tonight, I am continuing my review series featuring the early, not finalized version of the upcoming tabletop RPG, Asilo. Asilo is a tabletop role-playing game of psychological and clinical horror. This time, we are going to take a look at the game structure, but also the game mechanics. When it comes to the game structure, it is quite simple. An Asilo session should begin with an introduction that sets the game's atmosphere. It could be something calm and natural, but then things could develop into a nightmare. As the session progresses, players will encounter clues associated with the horrors of the Asilo. In the end, the patients will reach their limit and collapse, surrendering body and soul to Asilo. Will they lose their lives? Will they carve out a peaceful existence after all the horrors? Or will things end up in a more dreary, catastrophic situation? Now, I have a criticism when it comes to the writing. At first, I was going to give it somewhat of a pass because I only saw it once, but it has been repeated at least once. The book tells you that you are telling stories in Asilo. This is not a storytelling game. This is a tabletop role-playing game. And there are no mechanics that indicate a storytelling meta mechanic or storytelling mechanic, to put it simply, to put it bluntly. This is not Joe went to the asylum and then Joe got treated in the asylum. Joe experienced so many horrible things, but then Joe decided to escape the asylum. Joe decided to arm himself. No, no, you're not telling a story about your characters. You are experiencing the game world as your characters. This error needs to stop. This is a tabletop role-playing game. Role-playing game. Playing a role and playing a game. Playing a role and playing a game. This is not telling a story. You can tell a story at the end of the session. You finish the session. Now you have a story that you can tell to others. But you are not telling a story about the game. This is not a storytelling hybrid RPG experience such as Raven or Children of the Fall or Hardy Boys or Durandal to a certain extent or Steam Build Riders. This is not that hybrid experience. So I would recommend eliminating the telling a story. You're playing a role, you're playing a game, you're doing so many other things, right? Mechanics. Let's talk about mechanics. Now I want you to look at this diagram. because it's going to facilitate. I really zoomed into this diagram because I want you to get a good sense of what the sanity system in Asilo is all about. Each patient sheet contains the sanity clock, as you can see, where the behaviors that will be acquired throughout the gaming session are listed. Do you see those small circles? Whenever one section of those small sections is filled, that is, for example, the first section, or rather the second section, number 2, you have 8 circles. If you take, let's say, 8 points of sanity damage, then that section of the sanity clock or sanity pizza, perhaps you could call it, it is filled. And now you write in the number 2 slice of the pizza or section of the clock, you write a behavior that you acquired. And so the circles are being filled as you take that sanity damage, and more behaviors, mental issues start to pile up. The exception is the number 1 slice or section, because you are in the asilo for a reason, in the asylum. You start with a behavior that is not exactly in check. You are not exactly in balance when you start the game. You already have a problem, a behavior that is considered by some not particularly sane. So it's a very simple mechanic. Despite the impact of stress, it is possible to mitigate it by engaging in certain activities or consuming the correct substances. So activities such as self-gratification, even inflicting damage, consuming alcohol, it can distract you from the mental horrors. But for how long, right? This can only be done a maximum of 3 times. On the third time, it becomes a new mania and no longer contributes to reducing the patient's stress. If it's related to pleasure, if it's related to substances, if it's related to pain, you have specific manias for that. If the patient achieves their individual goal, all stress dots are cleared from the current sector. So the only ways to heal yourself from the sanity damage that you take as you experience the horrors of Asilo is through these activities that I told you, the consuming substances, mm, engaging in certain physical activities, or by achieving your individual goal. If a patient discovers another patient's secret, you roll a die. Perhaps the patient that found the secret clears all the stress dots in the current sector. Or maybe the patient that found the secret fills all these stress dots in the current sector. When it comes to manias and phobias, they do more than highlight each patient's personality. They are a mirror of it, reflecting their view of the world. Asilo knows very well who walks its corridors and feeds on these realities to advance its agendas. If a patient experiences one of their phobias, you immediately roll 2 dice, with the total converting to stress dots filled on the sanity clock. If a patient experiences one of their manias, all patients with them immediately roll 1 die, with the total converting to stress dots filled on the sanity clock. It will be possible to acquire new manias and phobias throughout the gaming session through the repetition of various behaviors. A patient could reach a downward spiral, whether through the horrors of the most terrifying revelations or just through the actions of entities spreading chaos. Many phenomena mark the patients. Silo was designed to tell horror stories. No, no, no. Asilo was designed to play a role in a horror situation. After the session is over, now you have a story to tell. Your patient could end up dying, maybe succumbing to madness. Maybe your patient disappears mysteriously or becomes an Asilo puppet controlled by the game master or caretaker. And this concludes this part of the review, although it is worth mentioning that you have a complete game mechanics glossary as well as the game terms. So it's going to be very easy for you to understand everything about the mechanics of Asilo. In the next part, we're going to talk about task and conflict resolution. The mechanics are very simple, they are well thought out. You encounter disturbing situations, and depending on those situations that you encounter, you will need to roll dice. Oh, yes, let me get further deeper into this sort of mechanic. When faced with a traumatic event, it is up to the player or players to make a stress roll, rolling either a six-sided die or two six-sided dice, depending on the caretaker's or game master's consideration of the traumatic event in question. The value on the die or dice is added to the stress dots. So, Asilo, it is such a risky situation. You cannot expose yourself to everything that is going on. And we are not yet getting into the mechanics. So don't think that this is all that covers the game system or related to the nuances of task resolution that will be covered in the next part. And yes, definitely, I hope the story telling a story, you're not telling a story, you're playing a role and you're playing a game. I hope that is removed. It is task resolution. The game master presents a situation, and the players describe the actions of the player characters. They are not telling a story. So once again, thank you for watching this part of the review featuring Asilo. If you have, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, consider joining as a member using the super thanks button. You can also check out the information in the description, the pinned comment. This has been your host, excuse me, Abraham L. Jaguar, a professional game master. And remember, master roleplay and you will master the game. Once again, thank you and see you later.